twirl under Alara's mesmerizing gaze, time slipped away. Finally realizing this was not just folklore, but a reality woven into despair for all who witnessed it, he fought back against her charm. "I won't let you take me," Cairo shouted defiantly before breaking free from her grasp and fleeing into darkness. Evelyn had always been a light sleeper, but that night was different. The phone rang at exactly midnight, its shrill tone slicing through the silence of her small apartment. Hesitant, yet curious, she picked it up. "You're in danger," a raspy voice whispered before the line went dead. Heart racing, she dismissed it as a prank. But then it happened again, night after night. Each call brought more details, someone watching her from the shadows outside her window, chilling laughter echoing down the hallways of her mind. Desperate for answers, Evelyn confided in Theo, her neighbor with an odd fascination for urban legends. He believed every tale had truth buried within. He told stories of people driven mad by nightly calls predicting their demise. On the seventh night, fear paralyzed Evelyn as she clutched her phone tightly in bed. The ringing came again, a relentless reminder of impending doom. When she answered this time, silence enveloped her like a shroud, until finally the voice returned. "Tonight is your last chance to escape." Panicking now and feeling trapped in a nightmare not even Theo could help with, she bolted to find him only to discover his door ajar, and inside lay his lifeless body staring wide-eyed into space. The realization hit hard. They were never meant to survive this twisted game together. The caller had chosen tonight as their final curtain call.
Under a crescent moon, the desert air shimmered with secrets. Silas, tending his cattle by lantern light, caught a glimpse of movement beyond the saguaros. A woman, draped in a cloak the color of midnight, approached. Her steps were silent, her gaze steady as the stars above. "You're far from any road," Silas called, suspicion lacing his words. She smiled, revealing a flash of silver at her throat, a pendant shaped like a blooming cactus flower. "I'm searching for something lost," she replied, voice soft but unwavering. Intrigued despite himself, Silas offered her water and a seat by the fire. As embers danced, she spoke of dreams and omens, of storms that could bring ruin or rebirth. When dawn painted the sky, she stood and placed her pendant in Silas's palm. "Keep it close. Tonight, you'll need it." Then she vanished, leaving only the faint scent of wildflowers. That evening, a sudden flood swept toward the ranch. The pendant grew warm in Silas's grasp, guiding him and his herd to higher ground. When the water receded, his land was spared, and Silas knew his fate had forever changed.
On the outskirts of Eldridge, a small, forgotten town, lived Kai. Every evening he heard soft whispers echoing through his bedroom window. One night, curiosity got the better of him. He followed the voice to an old playground long abandoned. There he found her, a pale child with hollow eyes and a smile that felt more like a grimace. She introduced herself as Lila and claimed she was looking for her lost ball. As they played in the moonlight, Kai noticed shadows moving around them, dancing figures that seemed both playful and predatory. "Don't worry about them," Lila said sweetly, but with an edge in her tone that sent shivers down his spine. Days passed, each night drawing him back to the playground where Lila grew bolder in her games. One evening, as they laughed under twisted trees, she suddenly turned serious. "If you help me find it, I can stay forever." The air thickened with an unsettling energy as ominous laughter echoed from the shadows. In that moment of clarity, mixed with fear, Kai realized Lila's game wasn't innocent. It was a trap meant for unsuspecting souls like him. He ran home before dawn broke, but couldn't escape her haunting presence lingering in his mind. Months later, while sitting alone one rainy night at home, feeling lost without friends or joy, the doorbell rang softly. There stood Lila again, waiting patiently. In a dusty corner of an old library, Rory discovered a book bound in cracked leather. The title was faded, but the letters seemed to shift as he read them aloud. Intrigued, handbagged, he took it home. As night fell, strange things began to happen. Whispers echoed through his darkened room, and shadows danced along the walls. "You must finish my story," the voice hissed softly from within the pages. Rory felt compelled to write, pouring his thoughts onto blank sheets that filled with vivid scenes beyond his control. Each word pulled him deeper into a world of chaos and terror where fear roamed free. His friend Moises visited one evening and noticed Rory's vacant stare as he scribbled furiously. "What's wrong? You seem different," Moises asked, unease creeping into his voice. "I can't stop. I have to finish it," Rory replied frantically. With each page turned, reality blurred. Soon he found himself trapped within his own creation. Monsters prowled in the shadows of familiar streets. In desperation, Rory confronted the entity behind the words, an ancient spirit longing for revenge against those who disturbed its resting place. Realizing that only by rewriting could he regain control, Rory crafted an ending where light triumphed over darkness. But at what cost? He had unwittingly released something far worse than mere stories, a truth about himself he'd never wanted revealed.
In a small town, a strange phenomenon called the pulse of emotion captivated everyone. Every full moon, a mysterious hum resonated through the air, affecting people's feelings. Joyful laughter turned to tears, and anger melted into calm. Scientists were baffled, attributing it to a rare atmospheric anomaly. One night, a curious teenager decided to investigate. As the hum intensified, she discovered an ancient glowing stone buried beneath the town square. Touching it, she felt a surge of emotions and realized the stone was alive, feeding on human feelings. To save the town, she had to keep it secret. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us.
In the small town of Eldridge, a puppeteer named Victor was known for his uncanny ability to bring his marionettes to life. He spent years crafting intricate puppets that danced and sang, each one more lifelike than the last. But as he delved deeper into his art, whispers in the shadows beckoned him towards darker knowledge. One stormy night, Victor discovered an old book filled with forbidden spells. Compelled by curiosity, he read aloud from its pages. Suddenly, his puppets jerked violently before moving on their own accord. What had once been harmless entertainment now turned sinister. They began performing grotesque acts against anyone who dared criticize Victor's work. One evening, after a disastrous show where one puppet attacked a critic, Victor realized he'd lost control. The puppets were no longer mere creations. They were extensions of his dark desires and fears come to life. Desperate to stop them, he sought out an ancient sorceress, rumored to know how to break such curses. When she arrived at dawn's first light with eyes like empty sockets, she warned him, "To free yourself is not without sacrifice." In horror but determined to end the terror unleashed upon the town, Victor agreed. As dawn broke over Eldridge again that day, the townsfolk awoke not just without fear but without memory. Victor stood alone among silent strings hanging limp in the air, a puppet master forever bound by what he'd created.
Which movie haunted hotel called the Overlook? B. The Shining. In which film does a group of friends summon a vengeful spirit through a Ouija board? C. Ouija. Which movie follows a family being terrorized by a possessed doll named Annabelle? B. Annabelle. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, who is the infamous villain who haunts the dreams of teenagers? B. Freddy Krueger. Which film is based on a true story about a family being haunted by a malevolent force? A. The Amityville Horror. What horror movie features a group of college students being hunted by hillbilly cannibals? B. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which movie is about a video cassette that contains a cursed film that leads to the viewer's death? A. Ringu. In The Babadook, what is the name of the sinister creature that torments a grieving mother and her son? B. Babadook. Which film follows a group of paranormal investigators as they explore a haunted psychiatric hospital? A. Grave Encounters. What classic horror movie features a mother and her son living in a haunted house with supernatural occurrences? C. The Others.
In the quiet town of Eldridge, a legend circulated about a skull buried deep in the woods. They said it belonged to Thaddeus, an ancient sorcerer who cursed anyone who dared disturb his resting place. Curiosity got the better of Dominic and his friends one misty evening as they ventured into the shadows of twisted trees. Armed with only flashlights and bravado, they stumbled upon an old stone altar where moss clung desperately to its surface. There lay a skull, gleaming white against the damp earth. "What if we took it back?" Jace suggested, eyes wide with mischief. Ignoring Oscar's warnings about disturbing spirits, they lifted the skull and heard a chilling whisper that sent shivers down their spines. "Return what is mine." That night, strange occurrences began, the sound of footsteps echoing in empty rooms and muffled screams slicing through silence like knives. The friends found themselves gripped by fear as nightmares haunted their sleep. Each dream revealed Thaddeus's vengeful past. One evening, while gathered at Dominic's house, laughter turned to horror when Jace suddenly fell silent. He stared blankly at the wall before collapsing onto the floor, a victim of Thaddeus's wrath. Realizing too late that some legends are best left untouched, Dominic rushed outside to return the skull, but found himself trapped in a swirling fog where whispers begged for release. As dawn broke over Eldridge, all that remained was silence and one missing friend. In a dimly lit gallery, an eerie painting captured the attention of a young artist named Jude. Its colors danced unnaturally, almost alive. The curator warned him, "It changes. It reveals dark secrets." Intrigued and dismissive, Jude bought it anyway. Each night as he painted in his cramped studio, the painting seemed to whisper unsettling stories that plagued his dreams. Faces twisted in agony stared back at him from its surface, each brushstroke growing darker and more chaotic. One evening, while lost in creating yet another masterpiece inspired by the sinister artwork, he noticed something terrifying. The figures were moving. His heart raced as they began to step out of the frame into reality. Paralyzed with fear, yet unable to look away, he saw them, their mouths contorted in silent screams. As they advanced toward him, Jude realized they weren't just reflections. They were souls trapped within their canvas prison for centuries. In a desperate attempt to escape this nightmare world he had unwittingly unleashed upon himself, Jude flung open the window and hurled the painting into the street below, only to hear laughter echoing through his mind. With every passing day after that momentous decision came darkness creeping back into his life, a constant reminder of what lay beyond art's beautiful facade, madness lurking beneath. The warning was true. Some secrets are never meant to be revealed.
In a small town, residents were baffled by a series of footsteps that appeared overnight, leading straight into the sky. The prints were perfectly formed, as if someone had walked on air. Locals whispered about a ghostly traveler or a portal to another world. One night, a curious teenager decided to follow the trail. As he reached the last step, he vanished into thin air, leaving only his shoes behind. The next day, the footsteps were gone, but the shoes remained, a chilling reminder of the mystery. Some say he found a new world. Others believe he became the legend himself. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us.
Under a silver moon, Emily pressed her nose to the frosted window, her breath fogging the glass as she worried about her missing puppy, Max. In the yard stood the snowman she'd built that afternoon, carrot nose, button eyes, and a scarf borrowed from her own closet. The snowman seemed to watch over the quiet street, silent and still. As the clock struck midnight, a soft shimmer danced across the snow's surface. Suddenly the snowman blinked, his coal mouth curling into a gentle smile. Silently he stepped down from his snowy post, leaving footprints behind him like powdered sugar dusted on the ground. Guided by the faintest whimper carried on the cold night air, he followed the sound deep into the woods. Branches creaked and snow crunched beneath his feet, but the snowman's heart was brave and warm. At last, curled in a hollow beneath a pine tree, Max shivered, lost and frightened. The snowman knelt carefully, wrapping his scarf snugly around the trembling pup. With gentle arms, he lifted Max and carried him home, leaving a sparkling path behind that glowed softly in the moonlight. Emily awoke to find Max safe and warm by her side and noticed her snowman's scarf was missing. Outside, the snowman stood tall, a knowing twinkle shining in his coal eyes. Some magic, she thought, only comes when the world is quiet and the snow is deep.
In a quiet town, whispers of a mystical fruit spread. It was said to glow under the moonlight, holding the power to shield the body from invisible enemies. Locals believed it was the secret to eternal youth, protecting them from the unseen threat of free radicals. One night, a curious traveler stumbled upon the fruit, intrigued by its luminescent glow. As he took a bite, he felt a surge of energy, as if his body was shielded by an invisible armor. But the twist? The fruit was a mere blueberry, rich in antioxidants, proving nature's simple magic. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us.
Fresh snow blanketed the old pine forest, softening every sound. Lily, bundled in her red scarf, wandered beneath the heavy boughs, searching for pine cones. She paused suddenly. There, pressed into the immaculate white, a single line of footprints curved into the trees. Curiosity prickled at her skin. No animal tracks. These prints were small, almost like a child's, but there were no children nearby. She knelt, brushing her gloved hand beside one. The print was crisp, toes splayed, as if whoever made it had been running. Lily followed the tracks, heart thumping. They zigzagged between trunks, paused at a fallen log, then continued deeper. But just as abruptly as they appeared, the footprints stopped. She spun, searching for more, but the snow lay untouched ahead. She looked back. The prints behind her were fading, snowflakes already filling them in. A shiver ran down her spine. The woods were silent, save for the whisper of falling snow. Lily turned for home, glancing back once more. The path she'd followed was gone, erased by the storm, as if neither she nor the mysterious visitor had ever been there.
On the outskirts of town, an old road lay hidden beneath creeping vines and thick fog. Curious and thrill-seeking, Silas dared his friends to explore it one misty evening. They say if you drive far enough, you might never come back, he joked, but his laughter faded when they encountered a dilapidated sign that read, "Dead End." Ignoring their instincts, they pressed on. As headlights pierced through the fog, shadows danced at the edges of their vision. Frightened whispers filled the car. Even Enoch's bravado began to wane. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road, a girl with hollow eyes and hair that seemed to float like smoke. "Help me," she cried softly before vanishing into thin air. The engine sputtered as panic set in. Owen was convinced they had gone too far. In that moment of fear-induced madness, Silas swerved sharply off-road to escape whatever haunted them, but instead found themselves in an endless loop, trees repeating like a sinister carousel. It dawned on them. This was no ordinary road. It was alive with souls trapped between realms, finally panicking together as night swallowed their sanity whole. They realized only one path existed, the way back which now felt forever distant. A choice loomed ahead: face whatever darkness awaited, or succumb entirely to its grip. Silas looked around at his friends' terrified faces. Perhaps some roads are better left untraveled.
In a quiet city, tucked between rain-slicked alleys and shadowed streets, Jaden stumbled upon an old fountain pen at the bottom of a dusty thrift store box. Its surface shimmered with faint, shifting words that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. That night, as Jaden scrawled stories in a battered notebook, the pen whispered ideas, gentle suggestions that floated and danced through the air like a secret melody. Jaden wrote of hope, courage, and impossible rescues that defied all odds. The next morning, headlines told of real people saved in the exact ways Jaden had described. A burning building emptied moments before collapse. A lost child found by a stranger who followed a sudden, inexplicable hunch. Each miracle echoed Jaden's words with uncanny precision. The pen's whispers grew stronger, nudging Jaden to write bolder, more daring tales. Soon, Jaden realized the pen's true power. Whatever it wrote, happened. With careful hands and a steady heart, Jaden crafted stories of kindness and bravery, watching the city flourish in unexpected, beautiful ways. The pen never revealed its origins, only whispered, night after night, inviting Jaden to imagine a better world, one word at a time. Marvin, the town's most peculiar wizard, had a mustache with a mind of its own. At the annual Willowbrook Fair, he was scheduled to perform his famous rabbit from hat trick, a highlight everyone eagerly awaited. As he waved his wand with a flourish, his mustache twitched unexpectedly. Suddenly, with a loud sneeze, the mustache sprang to life, zipping wildly across his face and shooting sparks in every direction. The nearby popcorn stand exploded into a mountain of fluffy kernels, showering the crowd in a buttery rain that left everyone laughing and sticky. Marvin scrambled to regain control, but his mustache had other plans. It curled into a tight spiral, and with a flick, the mayor's hat transformed into a chaotic flock of squawking chickens. Children erupted in giggles, chasing the flapping birds around the fairgrounds. Meanwhile, Marvin's mustache twirled his wand expertly, enchanting the dunk tank so that water floated in shimmering, glowing orbs that bobbed mysteriously in the air. Finally, Marvin grabbed a small mirror, staring sternly at his unruly mustache. "Behave," he commanded firmly. Instantly, the mustache drooped obediently, releasing its magical grip on the fair. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause, declaring it the most unforgettable show in Willowbrook's history. Marvin bowed deeply, his mustache twitching one last time in a cheeky farewell.
Welcome to the dark side of YouTube Shorts, where apparently sleep is optional, and the chills are included. Here, every story's got the potential to make you stare at the corner of your room like something's watching you back. From haunted houses that whisper your name when no one's home, to mysterious encounters that make your cat go full exorcist mode at 3 a.m. Yeah, we've got it all. And we're cramming the goosebumps into 60 seconds or less, because some of us like our scares quick and terrifying. Now listen, if you accidentally left the lights on, it's fine, or is it? Go ahead, turn them off if you dare. But don't blame me if your coat hanging on the door suddenly looks like a Victorian ghost lady. Happens to the best of us. Oh, and while we're talking spooky, if you've ever heard your name whispered when you're home alone, that wasn't your imagination, probably. These stories, they're based on real accounts, which, depending on how you feel about sleep paralysis demons, either makes it better or way, way worse. So grab a flashlight, or, just the nearest protective crystal from your random spiritual phase in 2025, and let's dive into this nightmare buffet. Like the story? Cool or cold? Because chills, Drop a comment with your favorite creepy moment, and for the love of all that is unholy, hit subscribe. Unless you enjoy unresolved endings and mysterious footsteps in your hallway at night. Alright, ready? The horror begins. Now.
Under the velvet hush of midnight, the grand concert hall stood bathed in silver moonlight. Its vast halls, once alive with soaring melodies and applause, now echoed only with the soft click of polished shoes on marble floors. Elise, a violinist with nimble fingers and sharper wits, slipped silently through the backstage door, her heart tuned to a single, urgent purpose. On the conductor's stand, an ornate folder rested. Inside, Maestro Bellini's final composition, the masterpiece set to debut at sunrise. Elise's gloved hands trembled as she reached for the precious score, feeling the weight of every silent note pressed between the pages. She tucked it carefully into her coat, glancing back at the darkened auditorium, where rows of empty seats seemed to watch her in cold judgment. Outside, the city lay still and unaware, its symphony silenced for a night. Elise vanished into the labyrinth of narrow alleys, the treasured notes pressed close to her chest like a secret heartbeat. As dawn painted the sky with soft pinks and golds, the orchestra assembled, restless and searching for the missing melody. Only Elise knew where the music slept, waiting patiently for a new stage, a new beginning, and a chance to be heard once more. As sunlight filtered through the turquoise waters, Lena's heartbeat echoed in her ears. She guided her way along the jagged limestone, deeper into the submerged cavern. Her flashlight beam danced over the rock, illuminating swirls of ochre and charcoal. There, on the cave wall, shapes emerged. A herd of mammoths, their trunks lifted, fish with elongated fins, human figures wielding spears poised in mid-hunt. Lena's breath caught. These were no ordinary markings. The images seemed alive, undisturbed for millennia by all but the slow drift of silt and the gentle caress of water. She reached out, almost touching the faded outlines, but stopped, reverence holding her back. Each painting whispered of a world lost to time, where ancient hands recorded their stories beneath the waves, capturing moments of survival and spirit. Above her, bubbles rose in silent tribute to the artists long gone. As Lena surfaced, the weight of discovery pressed upon her chest. She had glimpsed echoes of life that once thrived where now only water reigns, a secret preserved in the quiet depths, waiting patiently for someone to listen and remember.
In a small town, an enigmatic entrepreneur arrived, promising to support local development. He claimed his initiatives would transform the community. Residents were skeptical but intrigued. Mysterious packages began appearing at doorsteps filled with tools and resources. As the town flourished, whispers spread about the entrepreneur's true intentions. Some said he was a time traveler, others believed he was a modern-day alchemist. One night, a curious resident followed him, discovering a hidden lab beneath the town hall. There, the entrepreneur was creating a device to harness collective dreams. The town's prosperity was fueled by imagination. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us. In a small town, whispers of the echoes of life haunted the air. Legend said if you stood in the old library at midnight, you'd hear voices of the past. One night, curious teens gathered, daring each other to listen. As the clock struck 12, a soft murmur filled the room, recounting tales of love, loss, and dreams. Suddenly, a voice spoke directly to them, revealing secrets only they knew. Panic ensued, but one teen stayed, realizing the echoes were their own thoughts, amplified. The library held a mirror to their souls. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us. In the digital